The LaLa Show with myself, Laurie Laursen. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. Oh, how are you guys doing? Today is actually, excuse me, today is actually Thankful Thursday, and I'm so excited because I took a class with Corey Michelle. I should actually put her link in the thing today. So you know what? Today is a shout out to Corey Michelle. And I've taken a class with her called the Art of Living Crazy Possible class. And what I love about her stuff is she's been doing what Dr. Joe has scientifically been proving. She's been doing it, and she kind of discovered on her own she did discover it on her own, like innately through her own life experience of coming into knowing that when you have the energies or the words of the life that you desire to create and you tap into that. So, right now, I was actually just making a list. Here, I'll read them out to you guys. So the ones right now, they've been revamped. So I have had different ones, and I find that as I live life, I change them to sort of fine tune to whatever I'm in that moment. So right now, I have Magically Delicious 2019. Now, you want to pick the words that read for you. And underneath that, I have vibrancy, wealthy, playful, congruence. And then I have 3 words to sort of, because I couldn't find one word that I just wanted to tap into the energy that I wanted here. But with regards to me, I want to reveal, explore, unearth me, what I like, what I desire to create, what's fun for me. And so, anyways, on that note, where I first learned about energetic priorities was through Corey Michelle. And back in June, I took her class for the 3rd time, and I've been fortunate enough to do it in person and even online. Now, what is neat about this is you focus less on clearing the past, and you give yourself the permission to tap into the energy of the future you want to create. Now, what's really interesting about that is we've been kind of taught to keep holding on to those things that have hurt us and frustrated us and disappointed because, we want to prevent it happening again, or we're holding it on to it because we want to figure it out. Because, why did that happen? Or what is that? And you know what I've discovered, people, from my own experience, is that when you actually start to focus on the life that you desire to create, and that you can, that we can let ourselves have that's not just a Pollyanna thing, that it's actually something we can really create. When you begin to do that, it's like the answers to all those other questions of, why was this relationship so hard for me? Or how come this has been a struggle for me? Or whatever. It's like when you get into that higher, almost vibration, energetic place, the awarenesses in answer to that come. But you can't find them when you sit in the poo of the frustration, discouragement, disappointment, sadness, anger, resentment, rage, and all of that. And oh my God, I know that too well, lived there way too long. And I so see the gift in not choosing that anymore. And when I do, I don't make myself wrong. When I see others choose it, I don't make them wrong. It's just, I know now that there's something more possible. And at first it was a trust thing. So what's really neat is that was a really long scroll for my first initial point, is that I went into being this is Thankful Thursday. I went into this Art of Living Crazy Possible group, and I wanted to write down my successes, my successfuls, those two. And I wanted to write what I had received since the class that I took in June in Vancouver, British Columbia with Corey Michelle and these other lovely women that happened to be at this class. And I was in that class too with my cohort in crime, Trudy Sigvason. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyways, the whole class, the whole trip from beginning to end created so much in my life. It was actually the class where the wealthy LaLa was actually born. And it was during that class that I was expressing something that I desired, and out popped out of my mouth was the wealthy LaLa. Because remember, my grandma name is LaLa. And so it was just like I wanted to be the wealthy LaLa, like the wealthy LaLa, like a person living a wealthy life. And I love being a LaLa. I loved being a mom. And that's just no longer my role anymore. I'm not required. And now I'm in the LaLa role and I freaking love it. And I realized that, oh, like when those words popped out of my mouth, it was like everybody in the room kind of went, whoa, like it's one of those moments. And so since then, like what I then allowed myself to do was tap into the energy of what's a wealthy LaLa? What is a wealthy LaLa to me? And when I would find myself like back when I came home in my everyday life, and even when it was watching my grandsons, or whether it was just doing the dishes, or whether it was cleaning in the house or going to a friend's place, it was like, if I was choosing to be a wealthy LaLa, what would I choose? Like, what's that energy? And it was like, it would gift me with this possibility of, oh, that's really cool. It's like knowing my future self and the energy that I already be or have access to. It's like, how can I bring that into my life more? So here today, as I'm on this podcast, what would the wealthy LaLa do? And she would be all of herself. She would celebrate the fact that she's here today. And I am. So it was really cool. So I went into this group to go write down my successes just to share them with people. And some of them are, back in November, my husband and I went to Banff, Alberta, which is in the mountains. So I happen to live on the prairies in Alberta, and we went there for a couple of days to the mountains. And we were deciding to go on a hike. So these, some people in the town had kind of said, "Oh, go to this Johnson Canyon one." So we did, and it was like, keep in mind, people, it was winter time. Okay, now keep in mind too, I had in the past have not been well for a really long time. And as we're driving to this hike, I said to my hubby, I think about 5 years ago, it was about 5 years ago, I can't remember exactly for sure, but we came to this same hike. And if I remember correctly, it's the same hike that I sat in the car and waited for him while he did the hike, because there was no way that I could do it. Now, also, like as far back as like last April, I have to remember this is 2019 already, but in April of 2018, my husband and our daughter went to Europe. And number one, it was their trip. It was beautiful for the two of them to experience that together, but it wasn't something I was physically up for. And I remember when my hubby came home, I said to him, "Hey, is this something you think I could have done?" And he was like, "No," because they went to Croatia, they went to Slovenia, they did like anywhere from 11 to like 15 kilometers a day in walking. Not something I could have done. No, I couldn't even have done it. It would have just been it actually would have been too painful to walk that much. And it would have there's no way I could have. So anyways, we get to this hike and I'm like, wow, this is the same one. So we looked at it and there was 2 points. So one was a point that was about 1.2 kilometers. 1.2 kilometers? Yeah. And then another one was about 3 kilometers, somewhere around there. Well, the long and short of it was, people, with my hubby's help, just because it was slippery, we walked to the first point. We hiked there. So we got there and I was like, wow, it was pretty crazy because it was slippery at some points. It was, we came back. We ended up just going to the first point because we realized that I still needed to get back. And the fact that I got there, and I went to judgment of myself for a few minutes. It's just too funny. I'm like, oh my God, I should go to the second point. How much do we do that, people? Like, we've just created a freaking miracle in our lives, and then we have to judge that we didn't do more. But I wonder, like, how much is that just a possibility for the future? That we don't do everything in this day, like in this 10 seconds. Like, we create things for the future. So, anyways, it was my hubby who said to me, "Stop, Laurie." And I said, "You're right." So we just turned around, and after hitting the first point, we went back, and I took a picture of myself when I got out of the hike, and I was glowing. I actually cried after. I was so incredibly grateful for what I had created. Um, yeah, oh my gosh, it was just it was so cool. And then trying to think of what was the other things that I wrote down. Well, creating this podcast, the Wealthy LaLa podcast, like that is such a success. And I'm having so much fun, and it's creating so much in my life. And each time I record one of these sessions, I'm just like, I come off even more alive, even more vibrant than I was before I started recording it. And what a way to juice up my life, to create more things that create more of that energy. Oh, it's just so lovely. And oh, I'm trying to remember what were the other things. I had my coming out. So for me, um, I had a chat with a family member, something that I needed to do for a really, really long time. And I was so proud of myself for doing it and for how I handled it. Um, it was my coming out. And as a white married woman of a husband, grandma, mom, healthcare, past healthcare worker, it was my coming out. And yeah, so that was really cool. And anyways, that like so I but what I really wanted, like, well, no, even just beyond that, people. This one friend of mine that I've been chatting with quite a bit over the last few years, actually, it was Trudy, the one that woohoo, shout out for her. Um, she was the one who actually started it, and this acknowledgement piece, like, she really started picking up on the value of acknowledgement. And what I noticed when I posted this post, it as much as it's really going to be neat that other people are going to post on it and they're going to say congratulations and way to go, Laurie. What I've noticed is that my acknowledging me is actually the greatest gift. And that when we acknowledge ourselves and acknowledge the successes, my coming out, acknowledge my hike, like, really, people, I have had a hard time walking for like 17 years. And I chose something that was beyond what I could do in April. That's like 8 months ago. That's beautiful. That's like a miracle, but it's a miracle that I created. And that is something worth celebrating and something worth acknowledging. And, we're told often that it's like selfish or don't be doing that. You're going to be too full of yourself. Well, that's what actually robs us of the very thing that makes us just fall in love with ourselves all over again. Like, just, and well, oh, and I do. Really, this last month or two has become a greater and greater expansion of me falling in love with myself all over again daily. And I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed. And I really, truly, I so wish that for you. So, with the acknowledgement piece, really look around at your life and see what you can acknowledge yourself for. Like, for me, I got 3 kids that are in their 20s now. Well, one's in his 30s, and I got them to 18 alive. I didn't realize after having grandchildren, like, how cool that was. you know? And acknowledge myself for never stopping. That 17 years ago when I was diagnosed and I started to do alternative stuff, and I know people thought I was crazy, and I kept choosing anyways. Acknowledge myself that I got here today because of that choice to keep going, and to acknowledge myself for that. Oh, yeah. and acknowledge myself for just choosing more and choosing this podcast. Like, I chose this too. Like, how much fun is this to know that something could be out of my comfort zone and like choosing it 5 times a week? Like, hello. Although I am good at talking, you know. But what was I going to say? 5 days a week. And yet every day it just shows up and I go over like I am now again. Like I really should call it a 16-minute podcast because here we go again. Yeah. I think it wants to be called 15 minutes. It's just tricking us all. Anyways, I adore you guys. Please find some places in your world that you can be, acknowledging yourself, even if it's something really little, even if, it's a big thing to just even get out of bed on a day you don't feel like it. Like, how much could you celebrate yourself for that? So big hugs to you guys. And I look forward to chatting with you again tomorrow. Have an amazing rest of your day.